The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Leo Connors, and welcome to The Ring and All Other Sports. Guys, this is a special Zoom interview with my good friend of mine, Sean Wiggins, Ref Hanson, Wiggy Love, whatever you want to call him. How you doing, bud?
That's right. Leo, finally, I've graced. It's great to be on here. It took forever, and it took a crazy little Zoom spike, all this crap in the last hour. But bam, we call it in the ring, and we're here right now. Live, baby.
Absolutely. I got to give you 2 shout-outs from some people real quick. You know Scott Anthony, Shooter, the photographer?
Love him. Miss him. I haven't seen him in years.
He said he misses you, too. And it's been
so
a
many
long
pictures from
time.
him.
Yep. And our another mutual friend of ours, George Carroll Jr., wants to know if you're still working for MLB and Fox.
Still working for MLB and Fox. Maybe after this interview, maybe not. But no, that's where I live. And actually, that's a good segue, because you see this guy right here. This was I'll hold it up. I was the WXW Referee of the Year. They even spelled my name wrong. Isn't that great? But it's great. I do love this. But you know what? I left that world, and I got into another world. Kurt Angle's the only Olympic gold medalist in professional wrestling history, whatever, right?
Yep.
Well, I'm the only Emmy Award winner in the Independents. Woo! All night long, whole repping show, baby. That was from ESPN. Just had to show this to all you marks out there. This is real work right here.
Nice.
So, life's been great in MLB Network and Fox, and even NHL Network. They're in our house too with MLB. And it's great because me and you talk Devils Bruins forever. I'm surprised this hour isn't all Devils Bruins, but yeah, I love it. I'm very busy. Bad off today. I made off today for this, so I'm excited.
Nice. Sean, we met 20 years ago at the Ring of Honor show. Yep. You ate.
Mikey was this big.
Yeah, oh yeah. You ate more than anyone that day. The way you ate, I would have thought you were 400 pounds.
I did a lot of cardio back then, and I still do now, but I got the little dad boobs. So
yeah, me too.
That's all over now. Metabolism slows down.
Well, obviously, congratulations on your marriage. I was there. Your son, my nephew, I got to meet him soon.
That's right.
Maria was teasing me. She told me to tell you she misses you guys, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Hell yeah.
Sean, it all started for you, right? Your first match was February 25th, 2000. Nick Burke versus Dr. Hertz.
Yeah. My actually first match was a battle royal at the end of 99.
Okay.
SCW. But, it was a battle royal. It was then I started training then. And it was Fat Frank, who's dead now. Now, everyone I talk about, most of them are going to be dead. So it's just, I'll just say they're dead now. But we're talking about him now. It keeps him alive.
That's right.
And when I was training at I lost you. I was training at the Jersey All-Pro School. And Skinhead Ivan, Crazy Ivan, you remember him, right?
Yep, sure do.
He, all right, I can't see you, but I'm going to keep talking because obviously you can see me and hear me. He was training with somebody, I forget who, and said, "Hey, kid, get in here and ref," because he wanted to have a little exhibition match. So I started reffing it, and, I've been watching wrestling forever, so it came easy to me. And Fat Frank walked over, and he's scratching his balls, and he said, "Hey, you want to ref my show next week?" And I knew that I had to get on. I would have got on any way possible. So I said yes right away. Right. And my goal was to referee that show and then stop and go back to training and wrestle. Didn't quite work out that way, but sometimes the roads divert and you make it up as you go along. And it kind of worked out for me in other ways.
Well, like I said, Nick Burke, that's a wacky guy. I think I met Nick twice when I catered for PWU. He's one of the wacky characters in wrestling.
One thing I'll give him is that that was my first bump, too. He gave me a punch to the face at the end of the match there. One thing I love about Nick Burke, he was going bald. And, I am, too. We all are. We'll all be bald someday. But he started doing Nicky Benz. He started shaving around the top and put a little wig on. And he'd have me go to take his hat off, and the wig would come off, and he'd do this, and he kept the hair on the sides. So he like worked with it. He went with it.
Right.
Nick Burke probably should have got more than he got, but he was just missing an X factor. Some guys are just missing an X factor.
Right. Definitely very entertaining guy. Now some other guys that you met along the way, I got to meet also. Adam and Brian Brower, Insane Dragon and Dixie.
If they loved wrestling more, they again would have got more than they got. Like in-ring athletes, I said the greatest in-ring athlete I was ever in the ring with is Low-Key, and I'd put AJ Styles right there. Well, you just brought up Adam Brower, Insane Dragon, Izzy, whatever you want to call him, was so naturally good at the things you see today. And I talk about it on my YouTube channel when I do the commentary on the videos. He'd be in AEW right now, and he'd be one of the better. I don't watch the show, but I know that that's what they go for. He was naturally good. You could just tell him something, he could do it, and he was so athletic, it looked good too. But he needed like a Dutch Mantel type or even a Joey Matthews type to really teach him how to work. Like he didn't really learn how to work. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And Dixie was great too. It's just he was as good of an athlete as his brother. But together, I thought they were great.
Yeah.
And the one thing that hurt them, and this is bad booking by Jersey All Pro Wrestling, and maybe we'll probably get into it. They had a big, long-running feud in JPW, and it was huge in Bayonne. But Jersey All Pro wanted to branch out, but they didn't do it the right way because they had their big blow-off match when they finally met, heel versus face. They had it down in Seaside Heights, and the match, if you watch it now, looks flat. Right. But the angle was so hot, it should have been in Bayonne. Little things that hurt them, but outstanding. If I saw them today, I'd hug both of them. Never a crossword with either one of them. I'm sure there's guys on that paper that I did have crosswords with, but love them both, and they're doing good now. I talk to them sporadically.
I actually got to be sending a nice picture I got of them two together with blood all over them. I got to make a copy and send it to them. I want to stay on the Special K faction. Because it's
hell yeah, it's always, Doug Gentry, baby, Doug.
That's my favorite faction of all time. How about a guy that was on this show, Deranged, Johnny?
Deranged, another one athletically gifted. And I say this, and it sounds like I sound like Roseanne calling someone a fat ass, but like his mouth probably got him in trouble too much. But I don't mind that at all, I never played politics. I never was political. I probably should have been. I would have been further ahead. But Deranged never did. And I don't know what happened with him in Ring of Honor. Like, I don't know how that all ended, but he was better than a lot of their guys. Like, their scramble matches. And they would always look to him to take the big bump or do the big move. Like, he could do all that stuff naturally. And I'm saying that now, and there's probably guys watching this saying, he could do that naturally. You're just putting everybody over. Insane Dragon and Deranged were two of the very, very few that could do all that stuff. It's just, again, he couldn't piece together. He couldn't be the quarterback of a match. And he couldn't really talk. If he could talk, he probably would have got more ahead. But he kept his body. He was always in shape, always had abs. He'd eat crap and had abs. He probably still has abs now. Screw you. But, yeah, no, love him. I haven't seen him in years. I hope he's doing well.
I talked to him probably 2 years ago online, but he also had a great match with Ghost Shadow in like his third match. Something like that. And he won the title.
Yeah, they actually started together.
Yeah.
They were working at the Doghouse. And that's LIWF for those of you that don't know this area. And they were working one-on-one all the time, and Homicide and others kept pushing them to get on JP. So JP brought him in, and they started wrestling each other in the opener. And they did that for a few shows. And Ghost Shadow, I would always talk to the SATs, like, where's Ghost Shadow? And they'd always go, son, he went back to his planet. And if you knew him, that would make sense. Like, he was different. He was a different guy, but in a good way. And I see him often now. He works for the state of New York. I saw some dude, he had a white jacket on, and he's cleaning up outside Madison Square Garden, and he had that braid that Ghost Shadow. I'm like, that looks like Ghost Shadow. I was working the Big East tournament. And I tapped him, and it was him. And he's got a state job, Benny's, the whole bit. He takes care of his family. Like, he moved on and did it right. And he still works, and he looks great now. So like, it's never over. Like the business is never over for anybody. It's not over for me. It's not over for anybody. And it's definitely not over for him because he can still go. So hopefully he keeps it up.
Yeah, see, I never met Ghost Shadow, but a hell of a talent. I know that.
Awesome. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
He's a good.
You brought him up, right? An icon in independent wrestling, I think in pro wrestling, Homicide.
Homicide is the, and I'll say this not because we're friends and he would meet my son, and not very few wrestlers would, but he's our Terry Funk. And when I say that, I don't just mean he's like Terry Funk's an icon in the industry. You know, there's like 10 of those. I'm not talking that. I'm talking Homicide could wrestle a hardcore match. He could wrestle Mexican style. He could do Japanese style. He could do old school NWA tag team. And you know, Leo, you've been watching the indies as long as I've been around. The Carino feud, the Teddy Hart feud. He has the best feuds on the indies. He had the best matches with everybody. Humble as all hell. And never changed. Even when he was in TNA and MLW, all these places, he's still him. The wrestling never changed him. It changed everybody. Okay, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, but never changed him. And he was always more hurt than he let on. Never bitched. He's just, I would say guys in because he's still around, if young guys out there, try to learn from him, but you're not going to be him. And the way I say that is, if I wanted to play football right now, and I call Barry Sanders to give me pointers, I can't be him.
Right.
Do you understand what I mean? Like, he can't teach me how to do that. Gretzky can't teach you how to do that. Homicide's one of very, very few.
Right.
Very short list of since I started. He's way up here. And personally, he's cool as shit. Just sucks he's a Yankees fan.
Yeah, but you know, we hate the Yankees, but you got to give him credit, man. He loves his team, right? He loves them. And,
Till death.
you know, but you brought up, he had great matches with everybody. What about his matches with Trent?
Trent, underrated. I didn't bring Trent up. I should have brought Trent up.
Those matches that I saw when they worked, like they only worked a couple of ROH shows together in singles matches. Incredible.
Right. And then PWU and JP. And that's another, I don't get it. I don't get why so many promoters say, let's keep this feud going.
Right.
Trent is another one. Like, it just sucks that he died. I mean, it's no secret. I could say it now. Heroin got him.
Yep.
Don't do drugs, kids. Don't ever friggin' do it. He grew up different, and he has his own story, his own path. And I've had many conversations with him before that. And it's not, I mean, it was sad then. It's not sad now. Always remember the dead and bring them up. It's cool shit to do. But Trent and Homicide, again, like, you could say, guys, I need 25 minutes. And the fans are never going to be bored. That's not easy to do on the indies. Like, right now, WWE is come and see the show. It's like Disney on Ice. You go for the product more than the guy.
Right.
Where on the indies, it's probably a little different. I don't know how it is now. I haven't been into an indie since 3 years, maybe. But Homicide and Trent could main event you wouldn't want to follow them.
No.
So you got to put them on last.
Absolutely. And Carino, too, though. Like, incredible worker.
Carino, I like Carino. I like him a lot. I do. There's parts of my career I wanted to, tell him to kiss my ass. There's one time I was refereeing him against Jerry Lawler, and Carino, this is a Jersey All-Pro at Seaside, and Carino would always go into tights and have the brass knucks or the fake. It was sometimes, this is a little insider thing. One time, Dan Moff had to beat Jerry Lawler with a foreign object. He took a protein bar and put athletic tape around it and wrapped it around his hand, and that's how he beat Lawler with it. Nice. And Lawler's like, a job to a Power Plus protein bar? Lawler put it over. But I'm checking Carino's tights, and I had to check, like, inside his tights. So I pulled out, went, I don't see nothing in here. I was like, I see nothing in here. So I'd always try to shit on him. He always tried to rib me because his best friend was Mike Keener. So I was never going to be Carino's favorite ref, even though he knows I'm his favorite ref because who's Mike Keener? Right here. But no, Carino, I've refereed for him a lot, and I thought his Ring of Honor, when I was there anyway, ended shortly. He'd come out, and he'd have the whole entrance and the Japanese mask, and he'd have a whole, like, Bobby Cruz and Guillotine LeGrand would come out. And he had a whole, you remember when he did the barbed wire match with Homicide in Ring of Honor? Yes. He had a whole spiel. He should have had the belt. he should have been a heel champ and kept it up, and then maybe have a Punk or a Joe or whoever beat him. But I mean, you can never. It's always hindsight's always 20/20. Right. But Carino's a guy on the Indies anyway. I don't know if he could ever be like a WWF or WCW's #1 guy, but he's a guy like a lot of guys don't like Carino personally for probably a multitude of reasons. I hate him because he got his sister in the business. But I guess that's a whole nother story. But as a wrestler, I mean, he's can't deny talent,
right?
Whether you like the guy or not, you know. I like him though. Big Phillies fan, so I'm sure he's wishing for some bullpen help at the deadline.
Well, he's working with George down at the Performance Center in NXT.
No, George, good to hear Georgie's back there. Yeah. I thought he was gone from there.
They did, and then they brought him back, which was fantastic. That's all George has ever wanted, you know? It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's a perfect job for him.
Absolutely. How about, I got to bring this girl's name up, probably the biggest rat to ever enter professional wrestling.
So wait, you mean every girl except Molly Holly?
Nope. There's this one specific one. Dana
Damison? Horrible. Yeah, and this is why the Indies are the shits. This is why wrestling, like, I don't want to go all Jim Cornette, but when we were watching the Attitude Era, we were watching the industry not do this, we were watching the industry do this. Because it started to let all the idiots in, started to let all the shit in. Me and Paul London talk about this. I've talked about this in the past. You'd have like just any idiot to turn raw on, ooh, I want to be a pro wrestler. But they didn't watch it, they didn't love it, they didn't grow. If you don't grow up loving this and grow up watching it and really study, like you could see now going back, Lex Luger was never a wrestling fan, and it shows.
Right.
Like, you go back and watch his stuff now, it's better than today's stuff to me. Where you're like, ooh, God, that he was terrible. Blah, 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 blah. You would point stuff out. Dana Damison was on the Great Muta Final Battle that I reffed, Ring of Honor.
Wow.
Dana Damison was going to be a valet for Special K on that show. I don't remember if she was or not, but I remember seeing her like a couple months before the show. I'm like, oh, you doing the show in Philly with Muta? And she's like, Muta? I was like, Ring of Honor, the Final Battle. She goes, yeah, well, who's Muta?
Wow.
And like just shit like that. Like, know who the hell these people are, man. Right. It's like me showing up at MLB Network, not knowing not knowing who's on air. Like, know your product. Like, pay attention to it. But she was a Riz anyway. She was sleeping around. Like, she banged Danny DeManto. Like, how big of a loser you got to be to do that? No, some offense. But she was banging everybody left and right. I never did. So I'm clean. Never. But horrible. No memories of her in the ring. No memories of her in the back. None of them were. Actually, I have a pretty good story. I don't know what I'm going to go off on a tangent, but this is a quick story about a guy. I'll bring up a couple guys. June 2004. This involves Dana Damison. USA Pro Wrestling, Queens, New York. Remember it like it was yesterday. I refereed that whole show.
Frank
you didn't
Goodman.
go to USA. Frank Goodman. Best payoff guy on the Indies. Love him. Frank, if you're watching this, miss you, love you. On the show, I didn't know this. Low Key's wrestling Samoa Joe. They wrestled to a draw. Remember, Joe had the Ring of Honor belt. So he didn't want to lose in New York. It was kind of marquee, but it wasn't Joe's idea. It was Ring of Honor's idea. They had an agreement, whatever. They worked to a draw. New Jack was on this show. Show's over. Fast forward to the end of the show. Again, there's a side piece. Low Key and Joe got into a fight that night about something, not a fist fight, but I didn't know this. I'm standing in the back. Dana Damison's under my arm right here. So I walked up and I like nudged her, like, oh, you were in my way. You know, something stupid. She turned around and snapped, "Get the fuck off of me!" I was like, "Oh, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm messing with you." Low Key's behind me. This is when Low Key first got on the gas. So Low Key started to balloon up. He grabs me here by my ref shirt, and I'm $130 at that time. You remember, I was a rail, so I didn't fight it. He drags me over and starts ripping me apart. And the boys are still around. Show's over, but still a lot of guys are still there. He's like, "How dare you act so unprofessional, blah, 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 blah." Then, I don't care that you're dead. That ass New Jack, that douche, well, I don't know why everybody puts him over. Always in a bad mood and treated people like crap. Unless you could fight, then New Jack would kiss your butt a little bit. New Jack came over and started berating me too with Low Key. And Low Key, I'm still waiting for an apology for that night. But the bottom line is that was Dana Damison just getting her panties in a rough. And she should have never been on that show either. She should have never been brought in.
Right.
But I wanted to bring that story up to show you that sometimes rats create problems, and that's why they shouldn't be in the back. That's why they shouldn't be in the industry.
Right. She definitely is the one rat that never should have ever been in the industry, for sure.
She had zero talent. Zero.
Exactly.
Like, she didn't even do one thing good. She did nothing good. She didn't even take pictures good, and she wasn't hot.
Right. Exactly. Listen, let's talk a little more about Frank Goodman. His shows were notoriously long.
Oh, yeah. Well, Raven, and I love Raven. A lot of guys don't like Raven. I love Raven. I think he's hilarious. I mean, there's things I hate about him too, but everybody hates something about Raven. Raven always go, Frank, you should probably pay me twice, because technically I get here on Friday and I don't work till Saturday morning. Yeah, me. Now, I don't know if he ever got paid twice for Goodman shows, but it would start at 7 o'clock on Friday and would end about 1 a.m. on Saturday. But I'll say this about Goodman, and I used to ref those entire shows, and I did that on purpose because, it was the perfect learning experience. He'd have tag matches, singles matches, Japanese guys, legends.
Yeah.
Volkov would be on. I ref Norman Smiley against the wall, and I'm not saying this to be funny. Norman Smiley, in reality, everyone remembers him the Big Wiggle in WCW, which I like too. Norman Smiley is an excellent wrestler. And the wall, it sucked that we lost him in 2003. I know he had his demons, whatever, but everybody loved him. Anyone I ever knew loved him. Awesome big man. Like, I got to ref that match there. Like, I ref for Kevin Sullivan at Goodman's. I refereed for guys that I otherwise probably wouldn't have. And his shows, I know they dragged on, they were long, but he sold tickets. He made money. Like, this business is about money. I didn't make a lot of it, but I was in it for other things too, and which I did get, which I was lucky to. But Goodman, he would have 21 matches on a show. But at the end of the night, it would be Raven Sandman, D'Lo Al Snow Raven, Al Snow Sandman. He always mixed it up, but there are always people there. So maybe they left and came back, but his shows were always hot. And all the boys who talk smack, it's too long. You all showed up and you all wanted to work for him and you all took his money. So, Goodman was great. Nothing but love for that man.
Well, how about he was notorious for having ticket sellers on the show too, correct? Guys like the New Dynamite Kid.
I actually beat the New Dynamite Kid for the USA Pro Hardcore Championship and lost it an hour later on the same show. The New Dynamite Kid, a lot of people didn't like him because if you knew him personally, you'd be like, oh, this fucking guy.
Right.
I loved him because he always, at Candido's wake, God, I love you, Candido. I miss you every day. He went up to Tommy Dreamer when they were in the line to go kneel in front of the casket and was talking to him he was asking Tommy if he needed bouncer work. And Tommy's Tommy loves, stupidity. So he kept him going for a while, but who does that?
Right.
Why are you here talking about that? But one thing about Dynamite Kid though, he was in shape and he had tights. Something that's why I go back to Dana Davison. She had zero. He's nothing. At least Dynamite Kid tried. He had a pair of trunks, pants, but
all right.
Always gig on every show. And one thing, you would always see him do this. If I could see you do this, what the fuck is that? But he wasn't trained. He didn't know any better.
And there was just one more other guy, the ticket seller, and he used to pay for legends to come in. I don't know if he worked for Frank.
Helter Skelter.
Yeah,
yes.
Helter Skelter.
Oh. I would always say, and I didn't know this. I was like, why is he wrestling Cowboy Bob Orton today? Why is he wrestling Demolition? Why is it? So one good thing, I'll never put Danny DeManto over for anything, but I'll put him over for, actually, I'm going to put him over here. I don't know the backstory. I think he was supposed to wrestle Vader. He brought Vader in. I think he paid that Vader come in. Vader wound up wrestling Danny DeManto. And I think Helter Skelter, this is on the USA Pro show. It's November 05. I remember it clear as day. It's on my YouTube channel. I think Helter Skelter thought he was going to work Vader. DeManto came out and squashed him in 30 seconds, beat him with the frog splash, and pinned him with a hand on the chest, just shit all over him and threw him out of the ring. And a lot of the guys popped on the inside for that. And Helter Skelter, remember this, he was a good guy. Right. He was actually childhood friends with Trent. I don't think you know that.
No, I do know that. I do, because I did talk to him a long time ago when I did one of the PWU shows.
I think they played Little League together or something. And like Kashmir, when he was doing Trent's Acid Fest show, he's like, we got to have Delia. I mean, Helter Skelter on the show. He's going to win the battle royal. I'm like, why? Why? And he's like, no, they were friends. Like Trent knew him and liked him. I was like, oh, which makes sense because Trent was. If Trent was your friend, you were friends. You weren't acquaintances. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Trent was. His heart was golden. It's just, I just wish other parts of him were still golden, still here. But now Helter Skelter, he was fine, man. He was just another goof and a friendly as shit. Right. He always smiled and said hi to me. So I'm like, how can I hate that?
Nice. And a lot of guys, like you said earlier, we're going to talk about that have passed away. You brought him up earlier, Doug Gentry.
Love Doug. And if Rob Feinstein wasn't a douche nozzle, I guess I'm not. Rob Feinstein, 2004. You know where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure it's a known thing. Everybody on the Indies, side DM the show. Maybe I'll tell. I don't want to go into it.
Right.
Rob was a bad boy in the beginning of 2004. Bad boy. And it could have been a lot worse. And I'm an idiot for defending him because I was standing on an island all by myself. But Rob and Doug are the main reason Ring of Honor formed. Like, they're the main reason Ring of Honor was anything. Was RF Video. So when Rob does that whole crap and almost destroyed us in 2004, which in hindsight, I wish did end it, but Doug and Rob were linked together. They were best friends, dude. Right. I mean, when I went to his wake, there's pictures of Rob and Doug everywhere. I wouldn't like that. I know they wouldn't like that. Doug had his own deal, but Doug was. I'm trying to think of a way to put it. Like he would probably stop at a yellow light when no one was around. Right. You know what I'm saying? He was there was nothing negative about that guy in an angry way. And I would talk to Sean the Mick, Rob Feinstein, and Doug on the phone. Is after I got fired from Ring of Honor, like, fuck that guy, Gabe's a dick, blah, 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 blah. You'd never hear Doug say that. Doug would say, yeah, well, his personality was abrasive. Like, he would say it in a good way. And Doug was always, for those of you out there who don't know who Doug was, Doug always had the camcorder in his hand at every independent show our video was at. Always had the North Carolina hat or shirt. He'd always joke with the guys. And we always had a thing, like I miss in my real life. Anytime we would see each other, me and Doug, wherever we were, Doug would go, Hanson, raise my hand. And I'd go to raise his hand and he'd shove his arm off, go, get out of here. And I go, all right. That was our little Abbott and Costello bit. And I'll miss that. Like, I don't do that with anyone else, but we would always do it no matter where even if nobody was around. He'd go, raise my hand. And I go, and he'd say it on. I go, So that was our little bit. I missed that. It was like, it made both of us chuckle. But Doug was cool as hell. And we bought a Special K before. Special K was 1000% all Doug's idea. Yes. And at Doug's wake, I don't know if I ever told you this.
I don't think so.
Before the casket went in the ground, it was just me, Feinstein, Nick Burke, Missy Sampson, a few others of us. Before the casket closed, we put a Special K shirt in there with him. And then, and this is a cool story. I mean, it's a little ghoulishy, but it's cool. It's fun. And I hope someone does it with me when it's time for me to take the big dirt nap. He would always borrow $5 from Doug, from Rob. Rob would always say that. And Rob kissed the cast, goes, bye, Doug. And he's like fighting back tears. Like, I'm going to miss you always asking me for $5 for something. And I'm like, oh, you cheap bastard, throw it in there. And obviously they don't lower it when you're standing there. They wait. And Rob's like, and I'm like, throw it in there. And then Burke's like, yeah, throw it in there. So he pulled out a 5 and threw it in his grave, which was fun. It was cool. It was a neat little thing. But Doug's missed heavily. Like, when I die, when that day do come, and you'll hear the stories. People better not say, man, Hanson, not a bad word to say about anybody, because that shit ain't true. But when it comes to Doug, it was true. Like, if I'm telling you yes, it's 1000% true. Doug was one of those people.
I like to say Doug's the type of guy that checks all the right boxes. You know what I mean?
Oh,
all across the board.
He'd hold Maz. Like, if I saw him today, Doug, it's my son. You know, no, guys are dead. You 100%. You wish Doug was your neighbor. You know what I mean? Everybody
loved him.
Yeah.
All right. I would we still got almost a little less than a half an hour, but I have to bring him up because I know how much you hated him for so long. CM Punk.
AJ Styles. Oh, CM Punk. CM Punk, for those of you out there, when he came back to AEW, yes, he's back. The Savior is back, and CM Punk is talked about as one of the greats of this time. Let me bring it down to a level, and I'm only going to talk what I say. But remember, behind closed doors, everybody tells me everything, their real feelings. I have a lot of tight one-on-one, and there's a lot of guys in our industry today hate his guts, still to this day. I see guys putting him over. Oh, that promo at AEW was so great. He came out. The crowd was crazy. Because wrestling sucks now. No one knows how to relate to anybody. They're handed scripted promos. Like, the one decent thing about AEW, and maybe it does become something, is that at least they knew to pay the guy. Right. But CM Punk, let me explain this. How everybody in WWE hated Triple H when he was the champ and always in the main event. Everybody in Ring of Honor hated CM Punk, with the exception of two guys, four, Ace Steel and Colt Cabana, obviously at that time. But Homicide and Samoa Joe never said a cross word about Punk. That I'll say. But everybody hated him. And when Gabe Sapolsky fired me on the phone, he's like, oh, by the way, Hanson, don't show up at any of our shows. I don't want you in the back. I said, fuck you and your CM Punk exposés. I don't need to be there. Because the show started to feature him all the time. And, like, I know people are looking at us saying, oh, but you're over 40 now. You're in another industry. Let it go. You don't let things go. Yeah. Like, bitter's not a bad word. Bitter means you have passion. And I'm the most passionate guy I know. I hope I'm never not passionate. I'm going to teach my son to be passionate. And the thing about Punk is, like, I liked him when he first got there. He's a comic book nerd. He was a cool guy. I didn't drink. At that time, I didn't drink. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But you could just see he was playing a card. Like, he had a plan that he was going to get in. And he started staying at Gabe Sapolsky's house at the time. That's why he was running the school. And this is I'll say this. Paul, obviously you know who Paul London is. Oh, yeah. Paul London was the first Ring of Honor guy to get signed by WWE. October 2004, Ring of Honor has a show at the Philadelphia National Guard Armory, which is actually a pretty good building. Paul London's in WWE at the time, wrestling the next day on pay-per-view in Continental Airlines Arena. Okay? So frickin' everybody bear hugs London. Paul, man, how you doing? So good to see you. Because everybody loved London. If you didn't like London, it's because you thought he was goofy, but not because he did anything negative to you. Never would. Dude wouldn't step on a weed. Wouldn't pull a weed out of the ground. He'd like, oh, let it live. You know, he was a good dude. The last guy to go up and say hi to him was Punk, because Punk was pissed. Everybody's paying attention to somebody else. He needed all the focus on him. He's not a good guy. He's very phony. He's douchey. And I thought I was going to have to work with him because in my industry, he started doing the pregame and postgame for UFC. It was for a short time. And I was actually one of the ones that was pushing for it. I was telling guys at Fox, like, yeah, you probably should bring him on because he could talk. Right. Punk has talent. It's not like people think I hate him and I think he sucks. I think he's great in a lot of ways. But personally, I would say the two guys I hated the most, because the way they were to me that people know, CM Punk, New Jack. Always had either he'd do the handshake like this, like he's pushing his tongue out, like, or his lip ring. Like, can't you just smile and say hi? Like, Samoa Joe sometimes would shake your hand like this, like his eyes. Hey. It's because he just got off a flight for 6 hours from LA or whatever and just landed. But Punk was always some other deal. It's like, what do you have to be pissed about? I don't know, but he changed. I'm not the only one that said it either. I don't know how he is today. I haven't talked to him way over 10 years. And I invited him to Thanksgiving this year at my house. I'm just waiting to see if he's going to take the invite.
Hey, listen, he wasn't nice to us either when we were catering the shows. No. He really wasn't. One picture. He should have been kissing your ass. You did that for us. Yeah. Yeah. And if Rob paid me in merchandise, you know what I mean? Did Ring of Honor really sell for $40 million? Is that true? I don't know, but if it sold for 40, you mean when Joe Koff's people bought it? No, when Tony Khan bought it this time. I don't know for a fact,
but I 1000% believe it because Tony Khan's a mark. He's a money mark. Why do you think AEW is running right now? Because his daddy has all the money. You don't think I'd have an AEW if I had 250? He was handed $250 million to start it.
Unreal.
Like, no wonder why the Young Bucks are getting all their friends jobs. I wish I drove those little marks around more on the indies. And Young Bucks, you should have tried to get me an AEW. I don't know if they get people in AEW or not. I don't know much. But I would always, and this is an old trick, you refs can steal it now. I started to be bigger than all the guys. I'm not even being funny. Like, I used to be taller than a lot of the guys I'd ref for. So I'd take my legs and I'd split like this when I checked their tights, and I never stood up face to face with them. I'd always turn my back and walk to the other guy if they were smaller than me. Now, if I didn't like them, I would check their tights and walk up and kind of look over them. So I did do that to some guys, but I'd have to do that to the Young Bucks. I'd have to like crouch down to check them. I mean, that's just the way wrestling is today. It's like the game changed. It's like, no harm, no foul on them. They can't make themselves another foot taller, but it's just one of those weird things about wrestling, which is why, why come there's all like, why did the wrestling fans leave? Well, maybe that's one of the reasons. I will never believe that wrestling's more popular now than it ever was. I've heard people say that to me. It's because it's more exposed. There's more ways to get it.
Right.
YouTube and all this stuff. But if today's product was happening in the 80s or 90s, would you really watch?
No.
I would love to put a lie detector test on a lot of guys because no, they wouldn't. And a lot of guys my age are hanging around the indies trying to get, trying to stick around and be like, oh, no, it's great today. No, Papa Don. Oh, whoops. I don't mean to shit on him. But no, the product is not the same today. It's not as good today. I went off on a tangent there, but,
that's all right.
I usually do.
But you brought up like AEW referees, and they've got the only one that I think is any good, honestly, is someone you used to work with, Paul Turner.
Hate him.
I'm not a fan of the other ones at all.
I don't like Paul Turner personally for other reasons, but it's not. I mean, if we start, hey, it wouldn't be. I don't hold a grudge against him or anything. I just think he's kind of a phony douche. There's another ref there. The only other one that I know on a personal level is Bryce Rems. Yeah. I screw up his last name all the time.
Remsburg.
I like Bryce a lot. I like him. I like Bryce. I'm happy for Bryce that he got it. I don't know any of the other ones. And all right, all the ladies out there are going to get all upset. There shouldn't be girls refereeing men. That is the stupidest. Actually, It's the second stupidest thing in today's industry. Intergender wrestling. Stop it.
Right.
Why don't you just hold up a sign? This is fake. Anyway, but having girls should ref girls matches. And I don't mean that in a negative, women are not equal to us. But I even have a problem with it in sports. But wrestling's a little different. Let me just stay with wrestling. You can't do a ref bump. Can you? Because then she's got to get up.
Right.
I don't know. I don't like the girls reffing guys match. I just don't think it makes any sense. They should just stick to reffing girls matches. But the dumbest thing, the other thing dumber than drinking bleach is intergender wrestling. Unless you like stepbrother or stepsister porn. And all it is fetish. All the customs do it. Let them do it, which is fine. There's an audience for that, but not on TV. But I know AEW is what, 2 girl refs or
I know they got Aubrey something.
Amanda Aubrey.
And she just, I don't know.
She paid her dues. She paid her dues. She was on the indies for 20 years, driving the hit squad around show to show. Wrestling, so many guys in this world should have got more than they got. I'm definitely one of them. But this is luck and timing.
Right.
Luck, and that's it. That's all wrestling is. And Eddie Guerrero, God rest his soul, love him. He's Owen Hart level. I got him one time. I reffed him against Devin Storm. I'm so glad that I got to do it. And it was for one of my friends. He's the one that told me, hey, man, this business is luck and timing. And he said one thing about in the ring, goes, timing is everything. And that's just, it sounds like a cliche line, but it's true across the board, even in life. But 1,000% in wrestling. But there would be no girl referees back in the day. I don't know.
Right.
I don't like it.
All right. How about I just had these guys on about a couple of months ago, the SAT, Jose and Joel.
Hit squad, we coming for you, son. They were like, I don't know, I'm going to say this in like the best way. There's guys today stealing everything they did. But one thing about the SAT, they would lock up Brainbuster. To start the match. What what did I just see? But they were so, like, when they first got, they were Mikey Whipwreck students. When they first started going around the indies, this is like the beginning of 01, because they were supposed to be in ECW. That I remember.
Right.
But they Jersey All Pro, USA Pro, USXW, Cyberspace, all the CW, they started going around. Nobody liked them because they would go together, change together, leave together. They wouldn't look you in the eye. They had like an attitude, it seemed. Then you started talking to them, and you're like, I wish they lived in my house. Like, I love those two beyond words. Those three, I love Red. I love Red and Brian XL. Brian XL is always front row at Nets games. I don't know if you know that.
Oh no, I didn't.
I don't know how he gets. Yeah, he's always front row at Nets games. It's good to see him though. When I do see him, Quiet Storm, love him too. The only one I didn't like was Chris Devine. Chris Devine was the kind of the sixth member of that group.
Right.
The only thing I didn't like about him is you remember that another Riz Trinity.
Oh yeah,
Trinity?
yeah.
She, I hate her because she showed up at the Chris Candido Memorial Show for Frank Goodman. And Frank Goodman's the only one, by the way, that should have had a Chris Candido Memorial Show. Frank Goodman was booking Candido all the way through his problems, the whole bit. Trinity shows up and goes, oh, where's the merch table? I want to put out my gimmicks. And I was like, okay, fuck you. This is like a memorial for a friend. The same. But I didn't think she was athletically gifted, but wrestling talented, she had zero. Her and Divine were a couple. Right. Then they broke up, and I saw her hanging around Raven and, well, I mean, put two and two together. And a lot of other guys, not just him, but from that point on. And I walked in those shoes because I had a girlfriend in this industry, and I saw how it changed other people to me. So I understand where Divine's coming from. But I was one of the guys who was always cool with Divine, and he just was a dick from then on.
Wow.
But that whole group, they started working each other. It was SATs in red against Brian XL, Divine, and Quiet Storm. And they're like, oh, they have great matches, but it's only with each other. Can they do it with everybody? Then they started doing it with everybody. What happened to them in Ring of Honor, and I don't know if Joel told the story. I did watch the interview. He didn't tell the story. The Queens Elks Lodge, February 2003. It's a 1-year anniversary Ring of Honor show. They had a 12-person scramble match. Do you remember that show?
I do remember the show, but mainly for the Riot.
Yes. All right. This closed the show.
Okay.
Because you had Paul London, Xavier, and it was a couple main event. That was one of the best shows I was ever on. The last match was Slim J. It was Special K against SATs, Hit Squad, all that.
Right.
I think it was 12 on 12, and this is cool. SAT's like, I hope you have the match, and they asked Gabe to have it. And me, Paul Turner, and Gary would always try to. Everyone had a good match at the end, so we'd split it up, and it worked out where I had that match.
Nice.
Well, Gabe was expecting that to be like the greatest scramble match ever, and it had like pauses in it, and there was parts of the match where like guys were standing around. It's because everyone didn't go in the back, and I hate exposing it. Wrestling's so exposed now, who cares? Everybody wasn't in the room together at the same time, so guys weren't paying attention.
Right.
And so the match is okay, but it should have been 50 times better than it was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
from that point on, SATs went down. And I remember Joel said him and Gabe got into it afterwards. Like Gabe would always say smart ass shit to the boys. Always. And I'd always look at Gabe a different. I don't hate Gabe today. If you're watching this, hey Gabe, how are you, bud? Again, I invited him to Thanksgiving. He didn't get back to me either. Anyway, he's the guy who handed out programs for Paul Heyman. Like, you're that guy.
Right.
He never trained. He never bumped, all that stuff. And the way he talked to guys, he threw a chair in the back, flipping out about a finish. And he came this close to hitting Xavier in the shoulder. I remember Xavier got up and went, I'm going to knock that motherfucker out. And we're like, yeah, he's just. And then he walked away. I don't know if he ever apologized to him. But the way he was lippy, I'm glad Joel said something back to him. Because I know that's when it began. SAT stayed in Ring of Honor for a while after that. But that was pretty much the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
But the SATs, again, if AEW started back then, they're the top tag team.
Right.
They're right there. I mean, Briscoes, Hits. Well, there's a lot of other teams then, but they were major players. Like,
Absolutely.
they're in the playoffs every year. You know what I'm saying? And personal level, I loved always talking to them. They're just, and whenever I would travel with them to shows sometimes. Well, by that, I'm meaning I would drive them because they never had a car. But you would wind up talking like them when during the week at work.
Right.
You'd be like, son, what the, and they're like, what happened to you? I'm like, oh, never mind. I was around the SAT. I can't explain it to you. But nothing but positive, good times with them in real life too, and in the ring.
Nice. You brought up Xavier. I don't know if I ever told you this, but a couple of years before he passed, I had a nice picture of him and my son. And I hit him up on Facebook,
nice.
and I sent it to him. And he sent it back. He signed it for me. He was telling me he wanted to come back to wrestling. This was after he had been doing MMA. And then,
it's just, I'll say 2010 is when I kind of stopped seeing him every weekend. But around that time, he was the Michael O'Brien, the Northeast Wrestling.
Yes, Eddie W.
He ran Connecticut. Yeah. He was their champ, heavyweight champ there. And he would, that was the last I saw him every week. And he would always talk about wanting to do MMA. I'm going to get into it. Blah, 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 blah. And if Xavier could talk, WWE would have snatched him like that.
Right.
But he couldn't talk. You have to be able to talk. That's what separated Punk from everybody. Right. Not a lot of guys today can talk. And it's, you have to do it, even if it's scripted or not. Like, Xavier couldn't come across. That's the only thing he was missing, because his body was a 10.
Right.
He had tights. He had boots. He could fly. He could do power stuff. But little stuff, like, you needed to drive the car for him. Does that make sense? In the ring, too. He couldn't do it himself. But I brought up Low-Key before. I thought Low-Key's best matches, him and Homicides are tough to beat, but Low-Key Xavier was an outstanding feud.
Another one that another one he had with John Walters. John Walters said it here. He said that was his favorite opponent of all time. He loved to wrestle Xavier.
Walters, another one. He checks off every wrestling box except to talk. I don't know if he was ever really given the option to do it. Right. He had the perfect traps and shoulders. He should have tanned a little bit more. But God, if the NWA was not the crap NWA that's out now, not that stuff. I'm talking the real NWA, the 605 NWA me and you grew up on.
Right.
If that was around today, Walters, they'd have snatched him like that. Like, Walters, man, he was good in the ring.
Great
and
work.
A good dude.
Absolutely.
Cool shit.
And he was talking when he worked for, what was that, Lucha Libre USA, when he did the RJ Brewer? Yeah. No, he did pretty good because he was pretending he was that politician's nephew and all that. But
I didn't see any of that stuff. But that's great. That's good to hear. I wish he would have got a real shot with a company, Like, WWE would always bring him in to do jobs, which is great. But then they're always bringing you in to do jobs. This is a quick sideboard story. I want you to keep throwing names out, but Crowbar. Yeah. WCW Crowbar. He kept showing up to do Saturday night tapings, WCW Saturday night, and he was always jobbing, always putting guys over, which is fine. But DDP went up to him and was like, you got to stop doing that. They're only going to see you in one light. He's like, I get it. Went back in Indies, got polished. ECW, hey, wow, WCW Crowbar, because the office loved him anyway.
Right.
But they always saw him as a job. So maybe that happened to Walters in WWE. I don't know, but it sucked because he looks better now than 90% of the guys now.
Absolutely. It's funny that I found out later, probably a while ago, but Kevin Matthews and John Walters had become good friends. And I know you know Kevin.
That shows that Walters is walking. He can moonwalk into heaven if you want to spend your free time around with that jackass. Me, Kevin Matthews, and Bandito Jr., who I don't talk to anymore. That's a story that we probably don't have time to even get into. But it would always be the three of us. We would drive around the shows, and this is when I was in my Sandman phase. This is when I was in my dark phase. I'd show up at shows, and I'd have some soda pops. And me and Kevin would sit in the back and watch a monitor and shit on everything. It was bad. This is when Kevin he tore his ACL and just got released from Deep South. Me and Kevin spent a lot of time together. And then PWS Pro Wrestling Syndicate came about.
Yeah.
And their promoter, Eric Tapout, I want to say his name loud because he was a mark, a skinny goof with the name Tapout. He ain't tapping nobody out. He was this big. I can't whoop a lot of people's asses. I know I could kick his ass. But I hated him because he did some stuff to me in the Mick and WSU, like ripping up flyers and stuff. A bunch of stuff. But he was an unlikable guy anyway. You're going to say the name Eric Tapout, guys would go, at least I got his money. But Kevin loved him, and they were together in PWS. And then once Tapout was out of the picture, Kevin brought me back in to WrestlePro.
Yes.
Last few years. And I haven't worked for them in like 3 years now because obviously my career now is mainly weekend. So there goes that. But I like Kevin, and Kevin's smarter than a lot of guys give him credit for. And again, Bill DeMott, humorous, who talented, all that stuff. But you hear all the stories about him in WWE, how horrible he was to talent. And there's a pretty big name. I won't say the name who said it to me because that person's on TV right now. I don't want to say nothing negative, but I'll talk about the people that aren't. Kevin and even Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega's in Deep South, and the way DeMott treated him kind of deterred him. Now, people have their own hang-ups about Omega. I love him. I have nothing but love for that guy. I always had fun with him in the ring, like him personally. But another guy that had personal problems is Bill DeMott. Every time I said, there's always a personal problem, Bill DeMott. I know Bill DeMott's in that title that you're not going to be buddies with everybody.
Right.
But it just sucked that Kevin, again, like Kevin, one thing about Kevin, he was always crouching down when he wrestled. Kevin was taller than everybody. He was bigger than everybody. Even when I started, he was always, if you're taller than everybody, you're bigger than everybody. He didn't know how to wrestle like a big man yet. You know what I mean? If it was different, because Kevin always had a body, he ate his Wheaties, but he always had a big body, big traps, and then he learned how to talk. Another guy who, if timing was different, he would have got more. It just sucked that he was an Impact and kind of was a jobber, wasn't he? Sucks.
Yeah, that really did suck. We got about 5.5 minutes, and I need to talk to you about, when did you go overseas with WXW?
Yeah. This was, long story short, too late. Okay. This is the beginning of 2002. I quit my job to take the tour. I was working for this company called the Deco. I'm never going to work for them anyway. But they, Samu called me, said they were going to do a tour of Alaska for 2 weeks. I'm like, yep. Told my girlfriend at the time, I'm quitting my job and going, because I was 21. Or I was 20. I didn't turn 21 yet. And I'm like, I'm going, because you got to travel early. Because I can't do it, kids, house, you ain't traveling all the time unless it kind of works financially. So I knew I had to do it. Alaska gets canceled. I was like, damn it, I quit my job for nothing. Then the Middle East came about. Egypt, Turkey, Bahrain, Kuwait, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan. Remember, this is 6 months after 9/11. So when I heard about it, it was April and May of 2002. I flew to Fort Dix here in Jersey, got all my inoculations. Said, yes, Samu, head shrinker Samu, if you're out there, I love you. I miss you. You're hilarious too, by the way. Not a lot of people know how funny Samu is. He's the one that brought me on for that. And then August, September was the South Pacific, Guam, which I marked out for huge because Bobby Heenan would always say, wonder what the egg deficit is in Guam. He'd always use that line. Oh, that guy's the mayor of Guam or the governor of Guam, president of Guam. So I was in Guam. Like, you're never going to go to Guam. So it's Guam, South Korea, Hawaii, which is sweet. We saw Pearl Harbor and the USS Utah, which a lot of civilians don't get to see, and all over Japan. The only thing I regret is that I didn't go to Ribera's Steakhouse. Like, we had a day to do it, and I didn't go. Because I was hoping Sam was going to go, and Gangrel and Luna were on that tour. Luna, I love you. Luna Vachon, by the way, greatest, love her. She was nutso, but she was great. If she loved you, she loved you. She took care of me on that tour, learned a lot from her. She was like momish. So that was awesome memories. Gene Snitsky was on those tours too. It's not my fault. That guy.
Yeah, I remember Snitsky.
Love him. Big dude. He just, again, he couldn't really work well then. But what helped him is that he was working with Lloyd, L.A. Smooth, who's like the forgotten Samoan.
Right.
Phenomenal worker. Just he didn't look the part. You had to look too. And he worked with him, and it was great, and it worked. Batista, who I drove. By the way, Batista, fun fact, drove him out to his last match at WrestleMania. That was me. Batista, before he got into WWE, he was doing WXW, and he was working with L.A. Smooth. And L.A. Smooth was just grooming him, teaching him stuff. So L.A. Smooth is one of those guys that was very beneficial for that to guys. But those tours were great. And all you guys in the Indies now, 19, 20, 21, travel. If you get offered a tour, go. You're going to learn stuff. You're going to rewatch stuff. Watch stuff on YouTube when you're in your hotel room. it's a great learning experience. It teaches you how to be on the road. I know guys aren't on the road as much now as they were back then, but still, it's an excellent learning experience. And see the world on someone else's dime.
Absolutely. 2.5 minutes left. We could bring up something. How about Danny Doring? I know you're good friends with Danny.
Yes, Danny Doring is I don't really talk to anybody anymore. Yeah, I talk to you, Tony Myers, Big Sally Graziano, Big Mark, huge Devil fan. He's a Flyer fan. Simon Diamond, Pat Kenny, I talk to him a lot. We always talk about baseball. We never really talk about our lives. And Danny Doring. Doring's the only guy who showed up at my wedding. So the rest of you guys, screw you. And Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, I'm still waiting to return the invitation. But no, they got in Ring of Honor and then this and AEW and they're traveling. I get it. Once you get bigger, you move on. We didn't get to this. I know we have no time, but Matt Taven, maybe he would even admit to this. I actually helped groom him by accident. We hung out a lot when he was starting, and I actually taught him things he remembered later. But he was going to make it whether he met me or not. So kudos to him and Bennett. But yeah, Doring's great. Definitely should have got more than he got. And Paul Heyman was such a mark and such a hard-on for him that's probably why he didn't get it. I want to close it with something. We have, a minute?
Yeah, we got a minute and a half. Good. Take as much time as you need.
Perfect. I want to say that the last match, and I didn't tell these guys this, the last match I ever reffed, and I get emotional when I talk about it. I'm not going to cry on here, but I kind of want to. I love pro wrestling. I always say, Triple H lives for this business. You hear that? We all do. And I did. And I sacrificed so much. I sacrificed girlfriends and jobs and this and that and third. And I didn't get what I thought I should have got. And this was 2019, 25th anniversary of Homicide. They had a GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, did a special show for him. Homicide and Hernandez against Santana and Ortiz. Wow. Old LAX, new LAX. That didn't end the night, but that was basically the main event. Homicide wanted me to ref it. I didn't tell anybody this. I reffed that match. I kept that shirt. I brought it home. I should have had them sign it and put it on my wall. I texted those guys 6 months later and told them that was my last match. If I ever do come back, it's going to be as a manager or a heel ref, which would work today. Right. Someone should bring it back with me. I'll never be a straight regular referee again. Ever, never, ever. Not going to happen. But I took that shirt, and in 2020, when Major League Baseball went to Arlington, Globe Life Field, and did the bubble for the playoffs, of course, Texas, Dallas, you know me, Von Erichs, that's why I got into wrestling. I took that shirt. I drove down to the site of the Sportatorium. It's still open. The land hasn't been built up yet. I took the shirt. I put it down. I said like a little prayer. I thanked my grandparents. I thanked the Von Erichs. And like I started tearing up and I'm like, this is it. Like it's over. Right. It's over. Like I'm done. And it's humbling because like Def Leppard and Motley Crue, you see the shirt. They're still touring to this day. And I live for that. I live for live entertainment, live music and performing and all that stuff. But I know that part of my life is over. And this interviews like this is therapeutic. And I want to tell everybody today, live every moment, like breathe in the journey. Like it's over one day. It ends and it's sad. And I remember I was by myself and I put the shirt, I laid it down in front of the footprint of the Sportatorium and I drove off. So that shirt's probably on a homeless guy in Dallas right now. But I remember driving, I drove back to my hotel. I don't even think I had the radio on. I just like, a tear came out. I'm like, it's over. Like, it's over. Right. But I'm glad I got to do it because the one building I always wanted to work in, my dream match, I mean, you didn't ask this, but my dream match ever that I never got to do, Kerry, David, Kevin versus the 3 Freebirds in the Sportatorium. I wish I could have done that. I wish I could just make that happen right now. That would have been my dream match that I never got to do.
Nice.
Candido, Trent, I think about you every day. I talk about you every day. Young guys, watch them. You'll learn something. Candido and Trent, love them forever.
Sean, thanks, man. We'll do this again soon, all right? Don't hang up yet. I'm going to sign off, all right? Guys, we're out.
Yes.
Thank you. Peace.
Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the show. Listen, I could use a little help to grow my YouTube channel. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe. That's most importantly, subscribe. Send me a direct message, and I'll give you a shout out here on the show. My YouTube channel is real simple. It's just my name, Leo Connors. Thanks in advance. Peace.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.